In the age of condominiums, townhomes, and small city lots, home gardens are shrinking. But space limitations didn't stop Sonny Garcia and Tom Valva when planning their urban garden. At a mere 30 by 60 feet, it's home to over 2,000 plants, most of them looking good straight through winter. The nice thing about a winter day in San Francisco is that things keep growing. They still grow. This neighborhood is pretty typical. There's not a lot planted, but I see when we get to your place now, it's a completely different story.
That sure is, Jeff. Usually when people come and visit us, this is a landmark that I would tell them is the only house in the neighborhood that have a jungle in front.
Well, it is a jungle. It's a pretty jungle, though. I like the way the foliage kind of just goes right up the steps and softens the edges of the concrete. I think sometimes people don't think of the airspace above their plants enough, and they think of planting down here where they are. But, you know, there's all this space that can go up, up, up in a small garden. Can be used.
Definitely. In doing so, it leads the eye to look up farther rather than just focusing your eye to the ground. And that's one of the tricks of creating a larger vision from a smaller garden.
It gives you more to look at in more places without using any more room.
That's right.
Plants in pots look nice.
Yeah,
Although the front garden is dramatic, the backyard is the showstopper. Look at this. Suddenly the garden opens out. It's really pretty back here. And yet it's just a little small backyard, isn't it?
It's very small. The whole garden is only 30 feet by 60 feet.
30 by 60?
Yes.
My goodness. And yet look at how far it goes up. Now, when did you start planting this garden?
This garden was started in the summer of 1986, and I haven't stopped ever since.
Well, it hasn't stopped either. I mean, some of these plants here are very tall now, what, 20, 25 feet tall. And as I look around, the thing that captures my eye the first are these bottles that are hanging. They're just ornamental, I assume?
It's basically whimsical accents to the garden. They do mimic the flowers of the fanfare fuchsia, and that's the idea, to give some kind of a whimsical element to the garden.
Well, behind them, I notice you have some jars, some beautiful pots set way up high. I don't think I've ever seen that in any garden where the pots are set up in the air like that.
Yes, they're basically architectural elements. A garden cannot be sustained completely by just plants. There has to be some objects that will attract your attention or catch your eye.
But Sonny can't resist adding some plant life to the hardscape. You know, down here at ground level where we are now, there's so many interesting things to see. This looks like it was a barbecue pit.
It was a barbecue at one time, but the plants found their way in there, and it's been a planter ever since.
What plant is this that's covering?
It's creeping fig, or Ficus pumila. And it does cover the stonework of the barbecue, which is make it more pleasing.
And here's a little plant in the glass bell that's found a little place for itself.
It is. In England, they call this a cloche, which preserves early plants in the winter.
These are really striking succulents over here. Look at this color. It's beautiful, pink with very soft yellow.
Yellow, yes. That is a variegated form of Aeonium.
And this plant is really striking. Now just look at this. Look at the colors of that. What is this?
That's one of my favorite plants right now. Unfortunately, it's an annual. It's called Cerintha major purpurescens, and supposedly it's the most popular plant in England right now.
Well, I can see why. Annual or not, that's one I want in my garden. Now this little area over here really is pretty. Starting with this beautiful plant. What is this?
It is a begonia. I love the color of the flowers. It reminds me of goldfish.
Really? What I love is, I love the way these little succulents are planted in the pot.
They are sempervivums, and it's just so to cover the soil, And so there is something nice to look at the base of this begonia.
Uh-huh. Looks great. And over here, an ornamental stone ball on a beautiful rock with more succulents. Look at that. It has a very natural feel to it.
It does, yes.
And watch out for the little lizard there. Oh, he's not going to bite, is he?
No, it doesn't.
What I like about the scene like this is you look back into it, you keep finding things. Little balls, little ferns, and back there there's something else, and behind that there's something else. You really have packed an enormous amount of visual interest in a very small space.
That's right. I like whimsical objects to a garden because it keeps it interesting. And as you walk around a corner, you find something really funny or whimsical.
Sonny also grows epiphytes as well as tropicals inside his laugh house. With a roof made of narrow strips of wood, much like a fence, it protects the plants from extreme elements like heavy sun and frost. Now this is inside here, but this is pretty.
Yes, this is a laugh house, Jeff, to create some kind of a microclimate.
So this part under here is out of the rain, but out here does the rain, I guess, falls right through that?
It's pretty open, that is right, yes.
What do you have planted in here? Tell me about the plants.
These are mostly epiphytic plants. We have some bromeliads. These plants are actually very low maintenance. Once you attach them to the branch, they're pretty much self-sustaining.
And I see you have a pool in there.
Yes, there is a pond over here with a waterfall, and the sound of the water is really very soothing. It's really a good place to sit down and read.
And you have birds too.
And yes, next room we have a collection of parrots.
Oh, really?
That really completes the jungle effect of the garden.
It sure does. It's hard to imagine that this urban jungle and tropical showplace started 10 years ago as a hobby for its owners. In that time, Sonny and Tom have become expert plantsmen.
Living in the city, it's wonderful to be out in the garden. You wouldn't know that you're in the middle of a city by being out in the middle of all this greenness. And the sound from the waterfall camouflages the sound from the freeway, which is only 2 blocks away. And it's just brings you back to nature, and it's just wonderful to sit out here and read a book and just relax.
We definitely enjoy the garden, but also, on the other hand, I garden because this is, for me, it's a great therapy. It's cheaper than going to a psychiatrist, of course, but gardening really, I could come home from work really, really tired and come here, start working in the garden, and I just feel fine.